Is it ethical to be giving a third dose of the vaccine? One expert says no, with the fourth wave already here in Quebec. People are talking, hey, maybe we've got to think about boosters, another booster here. One health expert says it's not ethical to do this while other countries are struggling to get the ball rolling. Let's go to Maïka Sondarjee, professor at the School of International Development and Globalization at the University of Ottawa. Maïka, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Hi.
So let's take a look at this. We spoke last week to the head of UNICEF Canada, the president of UNICEF Canada, and UNICEF, because they have so much experience in giving vaccines, they've been given a lot of responsibility in the worldwide COVID-19 efforts. And he was saying, the situation in poor countries, is terrible, and we need to do more here. So give me your take here. As some wealthy Western nations consider a third dose. What's your take?
Well, I think the numbers you were telling are very telling, are very interesting, because it's not, there is no scientific consensus on if a third dose is useful at all. So that's the first thing. We do not know. The pharmaceuticals are saying that we should take a third dose, but obviously there is some interest in there where, they want to sell more doses. But then we know that 2 doses is what we need for global immunity. That's not to say that in 6 months we might not need another an annual vaccine for COVID. That's something else. But that right now we need it. That's not proven. So then the ethical argument is that here we are at a certain percentage. In most Western countries we are at 60%, something like that. In some countries in Africa, in my home country, Madagascar, my family's country, they're about 2%, 3%. So it's really unfair to prioritize the life and the health of some people over other people. If it happened in Quebec, it would never be accepted. If we said, oh, well, only the rich people are going to get vaccinated and the poor people won't, it would never be accepted. But because it's at the international level, we let it go, and it's normal, and no one is complaining about it. So now I think it's important to talk about it in the media and say, well, maybe we should wait for the third dose, and maybe we should give those doses to people in need.
It just, what's incredible is that you hear these stories, you hear other stories about how in some places, and I'm thinking about a lot of U.S. states where there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy along political lines, people refusing to get a vaccine. You hear stories, one U.S. state just had to throw out 60,000 doses of vaccine, a Pfizer and or Moderna vaccine thrown away, wasted because nobody wanted to use them. And that to me is part of this equation as well. Wealthy countries that can afford the absurd luxury of wasting vaccines while other people don't even have them. What do you think explains that? This human nature. We're wasting while other people don't have any.
Well, I think it's we can say human nature, but I think in some countries the impetus or the culture is not about individualism and let's keep and hoard vaccines for ourselves and let's act individually and our interests first. In Africa in general, the mindset is much more collective, much more communitarian. I think Western countries have historically been much more egoistical and much more self-centered than others, so that's one thing. But I think concerning the waste of vaccine, which is a very true issue right now, I think it's the lack of coordination. I don't know if you remember the initiative COVAX, which was supposed to organize the distribution. We were all supposed to buy through that organization internationally, and then the COVAX initiative led by the WHO would then deal with distribution. That failed completely because countries then started to buy vaccines by themselves because they started to be self-interested and vaccine nationalism and all that. And so we tried to coordinate. We weren't able, but that in a term of global crisis, and this is just the first of multiple crises. Let's think about the climate crisis or other crises. We'll have to coordinate globally. But now what we do is think about our self-interest and in a way that is not fully rational because, as I said, to get out of this crisis together, we need to give vaccination to a certain amount of people in the world, not only in some countries.
We're with Maïka Sondarjee, professor at the School of International Development and Globalization at the University of Ottawa. Maïka, what's the solution here? How do you I don't know, for lack of a better term, how do you wake people up here?
Well, I mean, the ethical argument, I think, is a good one, but then the self-interested argument is also a good one, because if we don't deal with that, if we don't give access to vaccination to everyone, then there's going to be variants, and then we're going to get back, we're going to be hit by the back in a few months, and then the crisis is never going to end. So we really need to do that for everyone, but also for ourselves.
Maïka, we're out of time here. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Maïka Sondarjee, professor at the School of International Development and Globalization at the University of Ottawa.